Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Tuesday. We're going to be talking about PubMed basics with Andy Hickner and Genevieve Coe. Both of them are part of the Wood Library. Thank you both for joining us today. Just for anybody who's new to Tech Tuesday, we are recording today's session. So later today, I'll send you a recording along with some helpful links that Andy and Genevieve have put together for you guys. And if you have any questions at all during the session, you can post them in the chat at any time. And we'll be stopping periodically to answer any questions you might have about PubMed. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Andy and Genevieve. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Again, I'm Genevieve Coe, the Clinical Medical Librarian Intern, and we have Andy Hickner, the Outreach Librarian at Samuel J. Wood Library. Today's Tech Tuesday is getting down to basics and assumes you have very limited experience with PubMed. So let's take a quick moment to highlight our goals for today. We're going to define PubMed and identify key differences between PubMed and other search engines such as Google. We're going to show you how to navigate the most essential tasks and functionalities. And we're also going to point you to a few reference resources for getting help and learning more. So today we're going to have a few minutes of lecture, and then we're going to move forward into a live demo. We're going to use some live polling to help you check your knowledge, and we will leave some time at the end as well as throughout to answer some questions. So like Vanessa said, you're welcome to throw those questions into the chat at any point. And if you'll humor us, let's start us out with two small painless icebreakers to help us learn a little bit more about your experience with PubMed. Awesome. Very cool. So far, it looks like most people have a little knowledge. I'm going to share those results with you guys. And another quick question. Do you usually use PubMed for research, patient care, administrative and grant support? If you reply with other, it'd be really helpful for us if you could throw your specific use answer into the chat, because we're really nosy over here at the library. Awesome. Thank you guys all for responding. It looks like most of you use it for research. I'll give a few more seconds for you guys to answer for us. So let's jump in. What's PubMed? It's a free search engine maintained by the US government. And the primary thing you use PubMed for is for finding articles in biomedical journals. PubMed searches Medline. Medline indexes several thousand biomedical journals, and it's freely available and maintained by US taxpayers. Let's chat for a minute about Medline and some things that are really important to keep in mind. American journals like JAMA and the New England Journal of Medicine are overrepresented in Medline, and journals from other countries and research that is published in any language other than English are going to be underrepresented. Often research is available as a preprint or as a meeting abstract in other sources like Google Scholar or Scopus before it gets published as an article and indexed in PubMed. And another gap in Medline you'll see is conference proceedings. So you won't be finding that when you're searching PubMed. I also want to point out that PubMed is not the only way to search Medline, but it is the most common way to search it because it's free. PubMed is designed with features that help you find evidence faster and more efficiently. It offers intuitive ways to filter your search by species, patient age group, publication date, study design, and language of publication to limit your search results and help you find exactly what you're looking for faster. One important difference between Google and Medline is that Medline is indexed by humans, whereas Google indexing is done by Google's automated web crawler. So trained human indexers assign medical subject headings to each and every article. Mesh searches synonyms and related concepts, so you don't have to type every variation out, and they're added to articles to help describe the content in a uniform way. Can you search PubMed without knowing anything about Mesh? Absolutely. PubMed automatically tries to match your search terms to the Mesh terms. This means that you can do more precise searching in PubMed than you can in, say, Google Scholar, which doesn't use human indexing. This is a really useful tool when researching more complex concepts such as healthcare disparities. All of these entry terms on the right map to the mesh heading of healthcare disparities. So you can see how this controlled vocabulary helps us capture all the various ways a topic can be described or referred to. So if you type any of these search terms on the right into PubMed, PubMed will automatically map your search to the mesh term to include the broad range of results that you're looking for. So I want to take a quick moment and circle back to make sure everyone's clear on the relationship between Medline and PubMed. So let's do a quick quiz. Blank is one of multiple ways to search blank. And let me throw up that poll for you. Awesome. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. I'm loving that I'm seeing so much of the correct answer, guys. I'm going to share those results with you, but most of you are correct. PubMed is one of multiple ways to search Medline. The correct answer is C. You guys rocked it. So let's pause for a minute so I can answer one or two questions that have come up in the chat. I don't see anything so far, but feel free to add it if you'd like. Otherwise, we're just going to move right on. I will be turning it over to Andy, who's going to demo some basic tasks in PubMed.
Thanks, Genevieve. Some of the things I'm going to review in PubMed are how to use the Weill Cornell library link for PubMed to get article full text. We'll look in detail at an article record and how to find similar articles. We'll look at how to check search details to verify that PubMed's correctly translating your search. We're going to spend some time going into more depth on MESH, medical subject headings. And I'll show you how to refine your searches using search filters. Okay. I'm going to share my browser window. Okay, so we're starting from the library homepage, which is library.weill.cornell.edu. And if I scroll down on this page, under popular e-resources, the first one linked is PubMed. So we want you to use this link instead of just going to pubmed.gov. And the reason for that is so that you can get links to full text through the Wood Library's journal subscriptions. We have a video tutorial that goes into a little more depth about how to get full text at the library that we're going to be sharing with you in the helpful links that Vanessa is sending out after the session. So we won't go into detail on that just now. So I'm now at the PubMed homepage, and let's start with an example that came across our info desk email within the past couple weeks. I'm just going to pop this in the chat so everybody can see it. This person was trying to start a project related to women victims in domestic violence. She was looking for field work or prior research that was related to the abusers, the men, and what factors led to them behaving that way, and what interventions exist and are effective. So I like this example because it's typical of a lot of PubMed searches, which are on complex research questions that don't necessarily have standardized terminology. So I'll tell you, if you search on this topic in PubMed, you'll probably get tens of thousands of results. And that's not unusual for PubMed searches, as those of you who've searched it before can attest. I don't find the PubMed relevancy ranking, which in PubMed it's called best match, to be very reliable. Often the most useful studies are buried way down in the search results. So in cases like this, where you have a PubMed search that's retrieving really large numbers of studies, it's better to try a very focused search. So I'm going to focus my question to a more specific modality, which is group therapy for intimate partner violence using cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So cognitive behavior therapy. And you can see it's auto-suggesting, and I'm going to add some other terms. I'm going to add group therapy and intimate partner violence. So as you can see, I'm not using any kind of Boolean logic. I'm not using parentheses yet or anything like that. I'm just popping, I'm kind of treating it like a Google search. The default Boolean operator in PubMed, by the way, is and, but as we'll see shortly, PubMed ends up doing a little processing to group your concepts together, assuming it maps it correctly. So let's take a look at the, so as you can see, I have this sorted by best match, which like I said, is the relevancy ranking, but I do have the option of changing that to most recent if I want. For now, I'm going to leave it as best match. So I'm going to actually run this search. Okay, so let's take a look at this first article. I get 67 results, which is a lot more manageable than if I'd done a broader search on domestic violence interventions. So let's take a look at this first result. You'll see I have down here this view PDF, this like big ugly purple button, and that's for a browser extension called EndNoteClick, which we actually license for all of you here at Weill Cornell. So if we have time later on, I can, and people are interested, I can give you some information on how to install that. It just makes it a little faster to get full text through library subscriptions. And then I think this over here, this is another browser extension I have enabled, which I think this is Mendeley. Just a different way of getting to the same thing. So at the top of the article record, we have all of our bibliographic information, the author list. I can check out the affiliations if I want. The PMID, which you also see up here in the URL, that is the PubMed unique identifier, and you can actually search for specific articles, use it if you know the PMID. Over here in the upper right are our full text links. So for a lot of content in PubMed, the full text will be available through something called PubMed Central, which is another platform managed by the National Library of Medicine. And probably the best way to describe PubMed Central is if you've recently worked on an NIH grant and published on it, you'll have deposited your manuscript into PubMed Central. So PubMed Central is a repository where you can read a full article if it's been funded by NIH. There are also other like open access journals that deposit full text in PubMed Central as well. But this is not available for all records in PubMed, which is why we have the Get It button. This little red button here, if I click on that, that'll take me to find the options for accessing the article through Weill Cornell's journal subscriptions. And I could just click on download PDF and get the article PDF. Again, for the, we have like a 2-minute video tutorial, which we'll be sharing the link to afterward for a deeper dive into getting full text at the library. So scrolling down further, of course, we have the abstract. So you can decide, is this article actually relevant? Do I want to read it? Scroll, scroll, scroll. And then the similar articles feature just is exactly what it says. Here are some other articles that are similar to this article, and I find it really helpful. I actually, rather than going through and browsing through all these one by one, often if I find one article that is just right on the money, the next thing I'll do is I'll go to similar articles and I'll look for articles that way, because I sometimes find that this is a way of getting articles that are relevant, but might not show up in your search results list. And then scrolling down to the bottom, we get to the mesh terms. So these are all those what's called controlled vocabulary. So it's standardized terms that are used in PubMed to describe what an article is about, basically. So again, we can see cognitive behavioral therapy, intimate partner violence is one, group psychotherapy. So that's where our group therapy ended up getting mapped to. So I can take any of these terms and I can do a number of things with them. I can send it directly to PubMed search and pull up all articles that are indexed with this particular mesh. I can add it to search, and then I can do the same with others and kind of mix and match and combine them. That can be a different way of approaching your search. For now, I am going to search in mesh, which means take me to the mesh database so I can learn more about this heading. So I'll do that right now. So now we're in the mesh browser. And right underneath the mesh term, we see this is what's called a scope note. And so that's the definition. It's usually a good idea to read that just to confirm that it's that the mesh term that you're using is actually what you think it does. Sometimes you might find that it's describing a slightly different thing that you're not interested in. So it's always good to read the scope note. Then down here, we see what are called subheadings. So these are just different facets of the mesh term that are available. And you'll have different subheadings that are available depending on the mesh term that you're looking at. Going back to this page, we can see that in this case, the method subheading was applied to the cognitive behavioral therapy mesh term. If I click restrict to mesh major topic, this gets you a smaller but more relevant number of results. And then Genevieve had pointed this out earlier, we get to the entry terms. So for example, if I search in PubMed for cognition therapy, PubMed will recognize that term and map it to this mesh term. A little bit further down, this is what's called the mesh tree. So I can go up and down the tree depending on my question. If I find that I'm not getting very many results using cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe I can go up a level and search for behavior therapy and look at other types of behavioral therapies. Or if I'm getting too many results using this term, then I can focus in a little further and maybe focus on like a mindfulness therapy. So this is another way that you can just kind of control what you're doing with your search. So when you're in the mesh database, you can then, let's say I want to, I'm just going to use the same subheading that was used for this article. Select that. I'll restrict it to a mesh major topic. I don't have to, but in this case, why not? I'll click add to search builder, and then I can either keep searching for other terms using the search function up here and then adding it to the search builder, or I can just send it directly to PubMed. So I will just briefly check and see what we have. Okay, so great question. Could you explain what the asterisk by the mesh terms mean? So the asterisk, let's go back to this record. So when you see the asterisk next to a mesh term, that denotes that this is one of the major topics of the article. So you can see we have about a dozen mesh terms, but we only have 3 major topics for this. So that denotes that these concepts are more important than these other topics, if that makes sense. Excellent question. All right, so let's move on to checking translations. I want to go back to my previous search, and I can do that by clicking Advanced under the search bar. So the Advanced Search Builder, if I know what I'm doing, I can search by specific fields and start building a more precise search using my Boolean operators. And I can also, from this page, access previous searches that I've run. So I'll go back to this one, my original search. And I can check the translations, the automatic term mapping to mesh by clicking on this caret under the details column. So the next thing I'm looking for is down here, the translations. So PubMed is telling me we took this term, cognitive behavioral therapy, and we found a match and matched it with a mesh term. Group therapy, we searched for that and we have a match for another mesh term, group psychotherapy. And then intimate partner violence also is a mesh term. And so you'll notice I kind of strategically chose these particular terms because I already kind of had a sense of what the mesh terms are. I might have gotten very different results if I'd used used different terms. PubMed sometimes interprets your search, your terms in weird ways, which is why I always check the search translation. And let me show you an example. Search for patient information. Another example of the very large result sets that you get when you do broad searches in PubMed. I'll go back to my search history, check my translations. And so what are we seeing here? Well, I'm noticing some funny business in information. So PubMed is trying to be a little too clever. It's saying information, well, let's also look for informally or informal. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in informality. So this is just an example of why, even though PubMed does its best to search for you on your topic, sometimes the AI or whatever the computerized algorithm behind the scenes, sometimes it gets a little overzealous and takes your search in a direction that really isn't going to be relevant for you. All right, we have another, okay. All right, again, if people have more questions, keep using the chat. We'll answer them as they come in. So the last thing that I want to show in this demo is filters. So let's actually go to one of these broader searches. So when we're getting a very large result set, that's when using these filters over here on the left is going to come in handy. So we have this nice little date slider. If I only want to look at things, say, within the last 10 years or so. The article type is one that I use all the time, and that allows you to limit to specific study designs or publication types. So for example, we can see if there are any systematic reviews on this. And actually there are almost 600. So still a really large result set, but a lot less. This is a great way if you're getting too many results to get it down to a more manageable number. You can see we have age limits. So if I'm a geriatrician, I'm probably going to be using this age limit quite a bit. If I'm a pediatrician, I'm probably going to be using the child limit. enable additional filters here and just add them. So for example, if I want to add, let's see, editorial. Now it shows up under my options. And if you want to save these, if you want to enable these filters or any other specific filters as defaults, then go up to login and you can create an account and you can actually save those settings. You can see I have mine set up with my Google account, but there are other options available as well. Okay. I'm going to stop this share and then jump into my slides again. Bear with me. Okay. So to wrap up, we are going to first have a couple poll questions. So our first question is, which of the following statements is most accurate? Pick one. So Medline contains all published biomedical. Oh, I need to actually launch this. Okay. Medline contains all published biomedical literature. Is Medline a selective index of articles from several thousand journals? Medline contains research that hasn't been published yet. Or Medline indexing is done automatically by web crawlers like Google Scholar. Give it another few seconds. We're at about 66% of you. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. So the vast majority is Medline contains a lot of published biomedical literature, but it doesn't contain all of it. There's no database that exists that it contains all published biomedical literature. So if you're trying to identify all literature on a topic, for example, when you're doing a systematic review, you actually have to search multiple databases. And then the other thing is Medline indexing is not done by web crawlers the way it's done in Google Scholar. And actually, you know what, I'm going to note a little caveat to this, which is since the first time we taught this class a couple years ago, since this question was written, they've actually have started doing automatic computerized indexing in PubMed and Medline. They started doing that this year. So that may end up having some really interesting effects on the quality of the indexing. We've already seen some cases where the computer applied incorrect mesh terms based on keywords that were in the title and abstract. So that's something to watch out for. It's possible that the quality of the indexing might go down a little bit. On the other hand, I think the main reason they're doing that is so that they can get things indexed more quickly. Because right now there's up to like 1.5 years delay in fully indexing some articles. So that it's a blessing and a curse. There are pros and cons of the new approach. Okay, let's move on to the next, our final question. Which of the following statements is not correct? The red Get It button only appears if you start your search from Weill Cornell's special URL for PubMed. You can bookmark Weill Cornell's URL for PubMed. If an article is not available online, you'll have to purchase it yourself. Or the red Get It button appears if you use the PubMed link on the library homepage. So which of these is not correct? Okay, still getting a few responses trickling in, so we'll give this one another few seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. A majority of those who answered did get this right. So the correct answer is if an article is not available online, you'll have to purchase it yourself. That is not correct. We will do our best to get you any article. If it's not available online using the Get It button, there will be an option to request it using the library's interlibrary loan service. So you should never have to pay for an article, even if you hit a paywall somewhere on the web. Let's just go over a couple of the answers that were selected that weren't correct. One is, okay, so the red Get It button does appear if you use the PubMed link on the library homepage. That's why you should use that PubMed link as opposed to going to pubmed.gov. You actually can bookmark Weill Cornell's URL for PubMed. In fact, I encourage you to do so. I have it bookmarked just for easy access. The Get It button only appears if you're starting with Weill Cornell's special PubMed URL. It won't show up if you just go to pubmed.gov. Okay. We only had 45 minutes today, and we have only scratched the surface of all the useful functionality in PubMed. I want to take a minute to share a few useful resources for those of you who want to learn more. First of all, we're always available to answer any questions you might have about PubMed. We also offer more in-depth PubMed training if you want a workshop for your lab or for your department. If you'd be interested in a longer refresher training with more time for hands-on activities, email us and we can schedule a one-on-one consultation. So the best way to reach us is from the library homepage on the right-hand side, there are links to Ask Us, and that takes you to a form that you can fill out. And it goes to an email account that we monitor daily, and we'll get back to you generally within the same business day. The library has guides online to all kinds of information, resources, and tools, and we have one for PubMed. It has step-by-step instructions for some of the most common things that you need to do in PubMed. If you're looking for a self-paced introduction to PubMed, the official PubMed online training is a good place to start. So from the PubMed homepage, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a section of the page that's called Help in Training or something like that. And it has really good tutorials and FAQs. And then last but not least, the PubMed user guide is a good reference source if you need to quickly look up how to do something in PubMed. To quickly recap what we covered today, we explained exactly what PubMed is and how it's different from search engines like Google. We looked at some key tasks and functionality you need to know as a searcher, like how to get full text of articles and how to refine your search results and what mesh is. And we covered some resources for getting help and learning more. Last but not least, I'm going to stop my share for the time being. I'm going to pop this link in the chat. We have a session evaluation that we ask all of you to complete. It's really quick. It takes about 30 seconds and it helps us improve this session the next time we offer it. So let's take a look at some of the questions in the chat. Does the library offer any resources or courses on how to conduct effective systematic literature reviews? Why, yes, we do. I'm going to screen share again. Let's go to, I have this saved. I'm just going to pop this link in the chat. So this is the our systematic reviews guide, and it has a lot of resources about the basics of systematic reviews and SR methodology. And there's also a link for faculty and staff if you decide that you want to, that you'd like to collaborate with the library. What that does is that means that we'll do the search for your team, and you don't have to do it. So yeah, if you're thinking of doing a systematic review, check out this page and you can submit a request here. We also offer on-demand systematic review training and workshops. Just email us and I can show you from the library homepage. You'll just click over here, submit a reference question, and you can just email us and let us know that you'd like to arrange some systematic review training or schedule a consultation with one of our team. Oh, Genevieve already answered this. It would help if I read all of the chat. Any other questions? We have a few minutes left. Okay, Genevieve, any final thoughts or remarks that you would like to share?
Nothing burning. I would encourage anybody to reach out for more help. We would love to help you guys with any searches that come up or any specific questions. We can definitely point you in the right direction and help you guys out.
I think that's about it. So Vanessa, I guess it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, thank you guys both so much for facilitating this session on PubMed, and thanks to everybody who took some time out of their day to learn more about it. Like I said at the beginning of the session, if you were a little late, I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording of the session and all of the helpful links that Andy and Genevieve have put together. Although I think you just got a question really quick if you want to answer from Joey. If translations don't seem to match what you want to search for, how do you edit your search to be more refined?
Genevieve, I've been kind of like hoarding the questions. So do you have anything you want to share about this?
Yeah, I think I understand what the question is. What I would recommend is, if you're entering something and totally wrong stuff is coming up, you can always search in the mesh kind of within PubMed. You can bounce around a little bit. You can search mesh and see what terms it maps to, if that helps at all. One thing I also recommend is finding an article that does match. If you have any article that matches, and then scrolling all the way down to the bottom, like Andy showed us. I do a lot of great learning that way, especially if it's a topic I've never heard of that someone wants some help with. You can scroll all the way down and look at the other terms that are mapping for that one. And I really like the similar articles near the bottom of the page under the abstract as well. But yeah, if you're running into a problem, like a specific, like, why isn't this coming up at all? Definitely don't hesitate at all to email the info desk. We can put you in the right direction.
Awesome, thank you. I think that was it with the questions, and I'll just let Andy scroll to the bottom.
Oh yeah, I was sorry, I was muted. I was just gonna say, just to show everybody what Genevieve was talking about. So let's say this article was relevant to us. We could go down and see if there's see if either of these terms is a good fit. And then going back to the PubMed homepage, I could use the mesh browser. which is over here on the right, and see if I can find a better term from one of these options. Okay, I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you guys so much. Again, everyone have a great rest of the day. Thank you for attending Tech Tuesday and keep an eye out for that follow-up email. Thanks, guys.